My wife encouraged me to make this video. You've seen the travels out to the farm and some of the locations, to the Katy Trail, and actually I've traveled the United States doing photography, but I want to mention our own backyard is a very scenic location. I have a friend named Hal Moran that's an excellent bird photographer. He calls himself the bird whisperer. Well, if he's the bird whisperer, I'm probably the flower whisperer. And I come from a background of having done some product photography, and also along the line became a pretty skillful photographer of flowers. But our own backyard is a very scenic location. Last year I worked really hard getting the backyard shaped up with a path that goes through the whole backyard. And this spring I had the chance, because of being home a lot, like a lot of you, to really work on the flowers. And we only have a few months during the summer that everything is burst in color. We have these beautiful orange daylilies that are really only nice for about 3 weeks. We have white Shasta daisies that do bloom throughout the season. And we have a prairie flower section where we have wonderful sunflowers that come up. We also have beautiful coneflowers and various just prairie wildflowers. In fact, we call that area of our garden the prairie section. Enjoy the walk through the garden. Also, I want to mention that we have a bird sanctuary, and I'll try to cut into some of the birds that are entertaining in the backyard.
A number of years ago, my dad and I designed the original curves of this trail. It's kind of a design project for us as a father and son team, and we built it. The whole idea with the curves was the illusion of space between the various areas of the garden, and so we have built on that over the years. Last year, the trail was in total disrepair. The weed barrier was in good shape, but the border rocks had sunk because it's clay soil, and we tried to go with just a minimal, kind of a natural look if we could. I don't know if the light's very good on this, but the idea was to preserve those curves where you could walk the trail, and the garden would just be broken up. Look, kind of like you were on a woodsy trail. We always had concepts of sanctuary areas where you could come and just sit, see the birds and the bird bath. If you're quiet, you can still do that. This whole yard was registered as a Missouri State of Conservation bird sanctuary, so we have requirements if we're going to maintain that status for our birds, what we feed and the watering that we have to do. Again, just a nice view of the prairie area here. We have, of course, Shasta daisies. Pretty soon we're going to have all the native sunflowers coming up, as well as the purple coneflowers in the prairie area. As we get back on the trail, again, continuing with the curves, and this is more of a traditional garden area. Those are my marigolds my sister gave me from seed. As we exit the trail, it just takes us out into the front yard. What was really kind of fun was when everybody was social distancing, then C19 people would come and walk the trail.
One of the things about our birds in our backyard is observing them with binoculars, as well as my digital SLR with a 600 millimeter lens. You get to know the birds and their personalities, also some of their habits. Unfortunately, you almost feel like you're spying on them in their intimate moments. We have a pair of love doves, I'll call them, that first the male sat out with quite his display of his chest all puffed out and everything, and my friends on Facebook commented he was probably looking for a mate. Well, they were right. Within a day or two, he had a mate lined up. They were really cute as they courted each other with their grooming rituals. And then finally, unfortunately, I guess, I caught their moment in intimacy and action. But we also have squirrels, we have rabbits, and we have kind of a laissez-faire approach to those animals as long as they're not getting into our attic of our house or whatever. We're pretty much inclined to just let them do their own life cycle in our yard. If it gets to be a problem, then we'll monitor the situation and maybe take some kind of action. I don't ever want to harm the animals. Lately, we've had a population of house wrens in our backyard, and they're great insect eaters, and so we like having them around. I do have, with my two main feeders, just a huge influx of the wrens, and they can drain a very large black oil sunflower feeder within a day. My smaller feeder, they'll drain if my kernel sunflower seed, cracked corn, and safflower seed, they can drain that in half a day. They're extremely aggressive birds. Despite their small size, you'll see them chase away birds quite a bit larger than they are. And it's interesting, they're very careful where they nest. Normally they're not more than 100 feet from a wood area. So we have some juniper trees, and that's one of their favorite areas to be close to. The male wrens actually prepare the nest hoping to attract a female. I have some photos of a male wren actually doing that. He's got a large birthday ribbon in his beak. Very fascinating how he set up that nest. And it wasn't too long before he had a female interested in his activity. What's interesting is another male can come and compete with him and actually take over that nesting site. And unfortunately, the new male may discard the eggs from the previous male. So very aggressive little birds. And they're very inquisitive. One of the reasons that they choose their nesting sites so carefully is they have to be somewhat open, so they're always on the lookout for predators. And I have some video of a male feeding the babies, and you'll notice how careful he is. He's looking for predators. He's a very protective male. And this particular bird I have observed, so he is with his same female, and it's been an interesting thing to watch. We also have had yellow finches and red finches, and they'll chase them off the other feeder, even though they don't eat that type of seed typically. Normally we have some type of thistle seed that the finches eat, but very territorial and aggressive for such a small bird. Also, the question is bound to come up. Wrens do not mate for life. Typically, they have a breakup after that one nesting cycle, and they will select a new mate after that. Again, it's the female that picks the male based on the quality of the nesting site that he's chosen. So I guess that is why she's always on the lookout for somebody that can provide her a better nesting site. Interesting birds.